There's one thing everyone fears: the silence of the late night. When the world is asleep and all that remains is the sound of the wind in your own heartbeat. But for some people, that night wasn't just silence, it was the beginning of a real nightmare. These are true horror stories about people who were completely alone at night. Each story unfolds under the weight of darkness when there's no one left to call for help. Brace yourself, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost, but the human standing just outside your door. Night shifts don't lie. They show you who actually knows their job and who just wants daylight hours. The quiet nights test courage and focus, revealing who truly belongs and who simply endures. Nights fall into a pattern if you've worked enough of them. Handoff at 7, quiet settling by 8, doors locked by 9, then the long stretch until dawn, where every creak writes a question in your head, reminding you that silence itself becomes your companion. At our urgent care in Salem, it's a small crew after hours, running lean, quiet, alert, and ready for anything. One provider, 2 nurses, 1 MA, 1 front desk, and a security guard who sometimes looks like he wants to be anywhere else. I'm the charge nurse, so I keep to the desk where I can see the monitors and hear the radios. Nights are calm when you respect them, and brutal when you don't. May 6th, 2022 started like any other. We patched a kid's fever, handed out ginger ale to a man with a panic attack, stitched up a Walmart worker's hand after he argued with a shelf. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and tired laughter. By 11, the place was quiet enough for us to tease Leia, my ma, about her terrible coffee. The laughter echoed softly through the sterile halls. Gabe at the front desk had put on one of his cardigans, which always meant the building felt colder than the thermostat admitted. Something subtle shifted, like calm before a storm. Doctor hummed while writing notes, which meant he was in a decent mood. Then at exactly 11:10, she walked in calm, confident, and strangely familiar, yet unknown. She didn't come through the lobby like a patient. She came from the staff hallway, the way you'd come back from grabbing supplies, as if she had always worked there. Navy scrubs, dark hair pulled into a bun that had loosened through the night, and eyes that seemed quietly watchful. A badge clipped to her pocket mask looped under her chin. "Hey," she said, sliding into the chair beside me. "Mind if I help with intake?" It didn't feel strange at first. Her calm tone carried quiet confidence and control. Float nurses show up late, per diem staff come and go, and honestly, when someone offers to help at night, you don't complain. Go for it, I told her. "I'm Jenna." "Taylor," she said, already opening the charting software, her fingers moving with practiced, deliberate ease. Her voice was calm, steady, like someone born to night work. She typed like she'd done this before. Tiny errors, nothing alarming. I didn't question it. Yila came by for disinfectant wipes and waved at her like she'd been there all night. "Thanks for coffee earlier," she joked, and Taylor smiled without looking up. Nothing about her stood out. She wasn't awkward. She just sort of blended in with unsettling, quiet precision. We had a walk-in 10 minutes later, a college kid with a busted knuckle. Taylor asked the right questions, her calm tone steadying the tense silence, tetanus history, allergies, and charted, while I wrapped his hand. It was seamless. But around 12:40, when things calmed, I tried to add her to the timekeeping system. The monitor flickered once, like doubting her existence. No Taylor matched her face. "No license number in our system." "Can you badge in?" I asked, my voice just steady enough to hide curiosity. She gave me a small smile. "It doesn't always like me." At 112, access denied. User Taylor P., the front door. The system doesn't guess names. It only shows what's truly programmed in cold certainty. I looked at her. She was typing calmly, as if nothing had happened. I asked Yila, "Did you see her come in?" Laya frowned, eyes narrowing in quiet disbelief. "I thought she was with you." Gabe at the desk said maybe she slipped in with a delivery. Security had no memory of buzzing her through. At 1:50, Taylor offered to restock room 4. I watched her walk down the quiet, fluorescent-lit hall with a clipboard. When I went to check 2 minutes later, the room was empty. Air still monitor, humming softly, supply cart half open, drawer sticking out, no Taylor. We pulled the flickering camera feeds for any trace. Around 11:05, she comes in right behind the last delivery of the night, quietly blending with the dim corridor lights slipping through the delivery gate like she belonged there. We switched to the footage from room 4 just before 2 a.m. She's walking out, carrying a small bag stuffed with supplies, moving with unnerving steadiness and eerie calm. Then, same angle, back at the gate. She leaves through the very door she entered. Calm, no rush. Every motion deliberate, every step chillingly precise. After that, nothing. Her half-finished chart was still open, the monitor flickering under the dim emergency light. A sticky note by the keyboard. Remember to ask, tetanus.hx, written in calm, neat letters. House supervisor confirmed. No nurse named Taylor scheduled anywhere. 3 days later, PD called. A nurse in Eugene had her bag stolen 2 nights earlier. Badge inside. Same name, same face. We printed her photo, taped it tight by the staff door. Do not admit without verification. But it wasn't what she did that unsettled me. It was how normal she was. So calm, so precise, almost invisible in presence. Calm, helpful. Her voice when I offered coffee, black thanks, still loops through my thoughts at night. I can't stop thinking. If she hadn't vanished, how long would we have let her stay in our world of quiet trust? My name's Derek. I've been a school janitor most of my adult life. Nights suit me, silence dust, and fluorescent ghosts. No kids, and no teachers. I like quiet. I like routine. I'd been working at Lincoln High long enough to know every hidden quirk and breathing rhythm of the place. Which radiators bang, which windows never quite shut, which doors you have to lean on in the winter. I start with the first floor wings, sweep mop-lock doors behind me, and work my way up, trusting the silence like an old friend. By the time I get to the second floor, the silent, echoing building feels entirely mine. That night, everything was normal. The cafeteria chairs stacked neatly, vending machines humming softly like oversized crickets beneath dim lights. The smell of lemon disinfectant following me closely and comfortingly wherever I went. I'd locked room 208, just like always. Lights off windows, latched door, tugged twice to reassure myself it was secure. 15 minutes later, the motion sensor light in 208 clicked on. Those lights only trigger with movement, and their sudden glow sliced through the quiet hallway. My first thought was draft. Maybe a stray balloon. But this was January. No balloons, no breeze strong enough to fool a sensor. I walked back and leaned to the wired glass pane, heart beating faster with every silent step. That's when my eyes landed on him. A man sitting at a student desk in the second row, upright hands, folded dark jacket, zipped up cap pulled low. He turned his head just enough that his eyes met mine through the glass, his stare calm but unbearably deliberate, like he'd been waiting for me. My stomach clenched. The door was still locked. I twisted the handle again. Solid. That meant he hadn't come in after me. He was just there, silent, patient, and impossibly present in that empty room. No wave, no smile, no explanation, just calm acknowledgement like two strangers on a late, dimly lit, and silent bus bench. I backed up, slow, pulled out my radio, heart thudding with a steady, nervous rhythm. Second floor room, 208. Adult, male, inside door, locked from my side. My coworker Marty came up with his mop like it was a spear, his eyes wide, breath held tight. He peered through the glass and muttered, "Well, that ain't right." Neither of us moved closer. I called dispatch. Lincoln High second floor room 208. Male subject inside a locked classroom. Doesn't appear to be staff or parent. Aware, calm. They said officers were en route, so we waited. If you've never stood in a dimly lit, echoing school hallway at night with someone staring at you from inside a locked room, let me tell you, silence is different. Then, in daylight, it feels like a pause filled with hidden questions. At night, it feels like the building is listening back. I stayed where I could see both the door and the stairwell. Marty tried to whisper a joke, something about students sneaking in, but his voice fell flat in the heavy electric quiet of that hallway. The man didn't fidget, didn't scratch his nose, didn't adjust his jacket. That bothered me most. Even patience has small cracks that reveal hidden fear. He had none. Every couple of minutes, I looked at the clock above the lockers. Each minute stretched like an endless thread of fear. My palms started to sweat around the key ring. Even though the hall was cool, I couldn't shake the growing dread creeping inside me. If he was in there with the door locked, he wanted to be. Finally, 2 officers arrived, their presence breaking the suffocating silence. Neither of us moved closer. I called dispatch. Lincoln High, 2nd floor room 208. Male subject inside a locked classroom. Doesn't appear to be staff or parent. Aware, calm. They said officers were en route, so we waited. If you've never stood in a dimly lit, echoing school hallway at night with someone staring at you from inside a locked room, let me tell you, silence is different. Then, in daylight, it feels like a pause filled with hidden questions. The younger officer barked, hands up, but instead he pulled a pistol. The hallway erupted violently, with deafening echoes of panic, shouts, desks, scraping, boots thewing. The older officer lunged, grabbed his arm, slamming him hard and fast against the whiteboard tray. The gun clattered to the floor. The younger officer shoved him down, radio crackling as he yelled, "Suspect armed." From the hall, I caught fragmented flashes of desperate movement and sound. The black pistol sliding under a desk, a chair toppling. I heard grunts, the scrape of shoes, the smack of a fist. Drop it. Control the arm. Commands barked over the chaos. Then cuffs snapped. The fight drained out, leaving heavy silence and trembling breath. They dragged him upright, face scraped, jacket twisted, hands pinned behind his back. And as they walked him past me, he turned his head and looked at me calm as ever, like he wanted to remember exactly who I was in that terrifying, unforgettable night. That look stayed with me far longer than any nightmare or noise. They bagged the weapon, loaded safety, off-round, chambered. The district called a meeting the next morning. Words like rare incident and reviewing protocols got thrown around in a cold, fluorescent-lit conference room. HR handed out flyers about vigilance. The union rep asked what we were supposed to do if it happened again. Nobody truly had an honest answer that day. The cops told me later he had prior trespassing theft, a reminder of how danger often hides quietly. Nothing violent on paper. Nothing that explained why he walked into a high school at night with a loaded gun, a puzzle that still echoes in my mind. I went back to work that night because not going back would have felt like letting him own the building, and I refused to give him that victory. But I changed how I worked. I tugged every lock twice, listening for the tiny click of safety, and I kept one hand on my keys as I walked, feeling their cold weight like silent armor. Routine used to make me feel safe. After that night, routine felt more like a fragile thread of hope, something I wanted to believe in, not something I could rely on. Now every time I pass room 208, I pause. Sometimes I even say evening softly into the quiet air, like acknowledging the space helps keep it mine. You swipe at the gate, swipe at the terminal, and your name pops green on my grid. It tells me who's late, who forgot their ID again, and who needs a replacement shift. It's routine, and routine feels like a fragile kind of safety. It was April 2021, just another Tuesday night shift. Only a handful of tired workers remained on duty. You swipe at the gate, swipe at the terminal, and your name pops green on my grid. It tells me who's late, who forgot their ID again, and who needs a replacement shift. It's routine, and routine is safety, a fragile piece built on blinking screens. It was April 2021, just another Tuesday night shift. We had a small, tired skeleton crew quietly scheduled. I remember the panic, the sirens, the way everyone gathered in the break room afterward, frozen in that awful heavy silence, nobody saying much. His locker still had a note taped inside from a joke we pulled on him, a faded reminder of easier days, and nobody ever touched it. Losing Brian left a hole in the place so deep it echoed every shift. And yet the system said he'd clocked in at 10:58. At first I thought maybe someone had reused his badge number in some strange, impossible mistake. Some admin error. But I checked the archive. Brian's badge had been deactivated right after the accident, and all his belongings, including his badge, had been handed over to his family. It shouldn't have scanned, and yet there it was, glowing faintly, impossibly alive again. I pulled the camera feed for the employee entrance. Grainy footage, but clear enough to see a man swipe a badge and walk in. He was wearing our standard uniform, moving with quiet mechanical precision under the dim lights. Dark coveralls, work boots, cap pulled low. From the angle, I couldn't make out his face, but the posture, the walk, it was familiar. Familiar in a way that felt wrong. My gut twisted with a sudden heavy chill of recognition. I left the office and went out onto the floor. Both lines were running fine. Guys at their stations, everything normal, yet the air felt heavier, charged with unseen tension. I counted heads. Everyone scheduled was there. No extra bodies. Whoever had scanned in wasn't standing at a machine. I radioed security, checked the cameras. We've got a phantom clock in named Brian D. There was a brief, heavy pause filled with static tension. Then, John, we saw it too. Someone's in the building. The night shift runs lean, and we all know each other. An unfamiliar face immediately chills the quiet routine. I walked the floor, scanning every face. The air felt heavier than usual. No Brian, no mystery worker, just the same tired guys I'd seen 100 times. Something about the silence felt wrong tonight. That's when security called back. North stairwell cam picked him up, headed upstairs towards storage. I grabbed one of the maintenance leads, a solid and trusted guy named Tom, and we went up. The second floor of the factory is mostly unused storage, cold echoing and filled with forgotten machinery. Racks of old parts, obsolete molds, pallets of paperwork gathering dust and silent memories no one wants to throw out. It's quiet up there, just the noises of the building itself breathing slowly like a tired machine. We walked the aisles. Nothing. Then my radio crackled again. He's on the west catwalk, heading toward the exit. We rushed over. From below, I caught a glimpse. Dark coveralls, cap slow pace, the eerie calm of someone who belonged to the shadows. Tom shouted, "Hey." The man didn't turn. He just kept walking toward the delivery bay. Security intercepted him at the delivery gate. 2 guards stepped in front, their flashlights cutting through the cold factory air. "Hands out, badge," one said. The man stopped. For the first time, he looked around, eyes distant, almost trembling with something unspoken. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn plastic badge, Brian's badge. One guard took it, looked at it, then at me as I caught up the silence, heavier than any machine noise. My stomach dropped. It was Brian's ID. The cold weight of recognition hit me instantly. Same photo, same name, same ghost of a memory revived. I finally saw the man's face when he lifted his head. It was Kevin, one of Brian's closest friends from the floor. Kevin had left the factory weeks after Brian was gone, unable to breathe inside those haunted walls. Said he couldn't stand the place without him. I hadn't seen him in over a year, and now he stood like a shadow of grief returned. "Kevin," I said. He blinked at me like I was the stranger, his eyes distant and trembling with guilt. "He's still here," he murmured. His voice was raw, filled with a desperate edge of belief. "You don't understand. "Brian's still here." One guard took a half step forward. "Sir, you need to come with us." Kevin shook his head slowly, grief carved deep into his face. I clocked him in. I had to. If his name's on the log, it means he's not gone. Not really. The words echoed deep and cold through the silent factory, chilling me, more than seeing him with the badge. The guards gently but firmly took his arms. He didn't fight, just kept staring past us, like maybe Brian was standing somewhere behind me. The police came. Kevin didn't resist, only whispering something none of us could understand. They found no weapon on him, nothing dangerous, just Brian's old badge and a small bundle of deeply personal and sorrow-soaked things in his pocket. A folded photo of the two of them at a joyful summer company picnic. A set of Brian's keys he must have kept after the accident. Later, they told me Kevin had broken into the HR office late at night weeks earlier and dug through old storage to find the badge. He'd been trying to swipe it in at different doors, waiting for a chance to get inside. When they interviewed him, he said he couldn't accept that Brian was gone, that the factory felt so hauntingly silent and painfully wrong without him, that he just wanted one night where Brian's name lit up the system again, a small, desperate proof of loyalty and loss. It wasn't malice. It wasn't sabotage. It was grief, dressed as routine. It was grief turned sideways into something eerie and unsettling, a sorrow reshaped by silence and time. The system log shows Brian D. clocked in at 10:58 April 14, 2021, as if the factory itself remembered him. And right below it, access denied. When Kevin tried to swipe out with the same badge, hours later, a digital refusal echoing human loss. If his name's on the log, it means he's not gone. Not really. The words echoed deep and cold through the silent factory, chilling me, more than seeing him with the badge. The guards gently but firmly took his arms. He didn't fight, just kept staring past us, like maybe Brian was standing somewhere behind me. The police came. Kevin didn't resist, only whispering something none of us could understand. Kevin's arrest made the papers for a day, buried on page 6. Just another quiet tragedy passing unnoticed by most. Most people saw it as a sad footnote, nothing more. To them, it was already forgotten history. But for those of us who worked with Brian, it cut deeper. His shadow still lingered in every silent corridor. We all carried his absence in different ways. Kevin just carried it the wrong way until it bent him. Grief had slowly reshaped him into something unrecognizable. I still have the printout from that night folded and worn tucked in the back of my locker. Its edges are creased like old skin. Brian D., 10:58 p.m. Sometimes I look at it and wonder if Kevin was right in a way. Maybe Brian really is still here, in the hum of the machines and the way the shift flows, breathing softly between every pause. But I also know this routine is supposed to be solid, reliable, a comfort built on fragile ghosts. That night reminded me how deeply, painfully fragile it really is, and how grief can twist even the most ordinary systems into something quietly, persistently haunting. Now, every time I hear the sharp, echoing beep of the scanner, I look at the monitor just to make sure the name that pops up belongs to someone who's still undeniably alive. I'm 27, a nurse in New Orleans. By the third month of night shifts, I thought I had the rhythm down. Each night blurred softly into the next, quiet and endless. Finish last rounds, sign off meds, badge out, elevator, garage, car, home, shower, sleep. That particular week, I was working on college, leaving after 12 hours that had stretched into 13. My tote bag was heavy. My mask left red lines on my cheeks, and my body moved like it had its own schedule, drifting between fatigue and fragile focus. The hospital garage sits across the access road, a concrete box with cold, buzzing fluorescent light that hums endlessly, and stairwell doors that slam like they're mad at you. On good nights, I like the echo. You can hear your own steps and measure the emptiness between each sound and know if you're alone. That night, I just wanted silence in my bed. I parked on 3B, same row I always use. Habit is more than comfort, it's pure survival instinct. My flip-flops slapped sharply against the concrete floor as I walked toward the exit ramp, keys wedged between my fingers the way my mom taught me. I didn't hear her arrive, but suddenly I saw a girl. She was under a single, lonely cone of pale light near the ramp mouth, moving back and forth in a line like she was slowly tracing the cracked seam of the concrete. Thin hoodie zipped halfway despite the humid, stifling late-night heat sleeves pulled over her hands. Her ponytail was messy, like she tied it in a hurry and forgot about it. She was talking to herself, not loud, but like a soft, trembling, private mantra of fear. I froze halfway down the row. Training pulled me two ways at once. Nurses don't ignore someone crying, but women don't walk towards strangers alone in dark, echoing hospital garages. I hesitated, then called out, "Hey, you okay?" She stopped, like someone had unplugged her, just halted mid-step under the cold, buzzing garage lights. Slowly, she lifted her face toward me. Her eyes looked too bright in that light, reflecting something more than fear itself. Her mouth wasn't moving but looked like it wanted to, as if words were trapped behind her breath. "Security's right there," I said, pointing at the booth by the exit. She didn't answer, and the silence felt heavier than footsteps. She turned and ran straight into the stairwell. The heavy door slammed, echoing up the cold, hollow concrete walls. I went to the door, pulled it open, and leaned in. No footsteps, no faint echoes, no distant breathing, just emptiness. At the booth, the guard, Alton, I think, though I always mix it up, saw me still standing there, frozen with disbelief. "Something wrong, ma'am. There was a girl," I said, pacing, crying voice, trembling under the cold fluorescent light. "She just ran into the stairwell." He toggled his monitor, radioed another guard, his tone calm, but eyes slightly tense. "Unit 2, stairwell check 3B, exit to me. Stay by your car." The second guard, older alert, took the stairs loud on purpose. His steps echoed, each thud bouncing through the hollow concrete, then faded. 10 minutes later, he returned, shaking his head slowly. No one there, not even a single sound left. No doors propped. "She was right there," I said again. "We'll keep a lookout," the first guard told me, in that same calm, almost distant tone you use when you want to calm someone without promising anything. I drove home unsettled, convincing myself it was a lost patient's daughter or someone harmless just waiting nervously for a ride. The world is full of simple explanations, but deep down I knew it wasn't over yet. The next night I worked late again. Same garage, same elevator hitch, same hot air pressing against me as I stepped out on the third floor B level. The air felt thicker, humming with quiet dread. She was there. Same spot, same hoodie, same ponytail, same sleeves, pulled over her hands, same pacing. Every mirrored motion tightened the knot in my chest. 4 steps turn her back. This time, she stopped sooner, lifted her face toward me like she'd been expecting me. Her stare carried recognition, strange and unspoken. My hand twitched toward my phone, then toward my keys, then back again. Even small movements felt impossibly heavy, like underwater. I didn't call out. My breath caught in cold silence. My feet chose for me. I walked to my car. She didn't move, just watched me. Her eyes caught the light in a way that made them look like glass, empty, reflecting the harsh fluorescent glow. Perhaps because of the tears. My hand shook so badly, I fumbled the unlock button, panic slipping into every shaky breath. The chirp echoed way too loud in the garage. I slid into the car, pulled the lock down manually, and started the engine, heart pounding louder than the idle hum. When I looked back through the fogged and trembling rear window, she was still standing there, sleeves over her hands, motionless under the harsh light staring. I told my charge nurse the next day he radioed security to monitor the garage exit carefully at shift change. They promised to check their voices calm, but uncertain. That evening, I stalled after work, so I could leave together with the tired evening crowd. Respiratory peeled off toward their cars. Residents chattered about labs, everyone splitting into smaller streams. I walked with them, their tired laughter echoing softly in the garage, feeling safer in numbers. The ramp mouth was empty. That hollow silence pressed harder than footsteps ever could. Empty should have felt better. It didn't. A few hours later, a police officer came to the unit office to take a statement. He had a notebook pen and an unsettlingly calm expression, asked what time, what she looked like, what she said. I admitted I couldn't make out the words. He asked if she approached me. I said no. Vehicle. Didn't see one. He said they'd check footage. When they called me down to view it, the contradiction set in a chilling silence filled the viewing room. The camera showed me walking across the garage, the guard looking up the stairwell door, bouncing shut, but the space where she had paced was completely hauntingly empty. The second night's tape jumped once, just a tiny skip, and then showed me hurrying to my car. The air felt heavier than before. No hoodie, no pacing, nothing. The officer didn't call it a glitch, and I respected him for that. His calm silence carried more weight than words. He just said nothing visible at the time you described. After that, I started parking on level 5, always directly beneath the bright security camera. I saved the escort number. Sometimes Alton or Elton walked me out, telling stories about his twins who never slept at the same time. Sometimes a female guard with a tight bun walked with me, eyes locked on the stairwell door as we passed. Both made it easier, not easy, but less unbearable in the silence. The weird part is how small echoes became weighted. Even harmless sounds now carried quiet fear. A laundry cart squeak sounded like pacing. Each echo stretched longer than before. A resident in a hoodie, jogging across the deck, made me flinch, as if the night itself remembered. Even my own steps when the garage was empty seemed to mimic her slow, haunting, and deliberate rhythm, like a ghostly echo. 4 paws, 4 back. 2 Sundays later, I dragged my friend Danny, day shift still believes in naps, hoping for proof, not just restless imagination, out there to see. We stood under the light by the ramp. She pointed at the stairwell door and said, "Those hydraulics are stiff." She must have pushed hard to make it slam so violently in that eerie silence. We waited. Nothing happened. Eventually, we left, both pretending the strange, heavy silence felt somehow reassuring. The police never called back with an update. No missing person matched. The garage stayed what it always was, a concrete box that hums and breathes like something alive deciding who it wants to let you see. I avoid 3B now, no matter how late the shift gets. I park farther away beneath the steady, blinking security cameras, and I don't apologize for asking for an escort. I don't look toward it. Not because I'm scared of a girl in a hoodie, but because I don't know which would be worse, seeing her again exactly where she stood, or seeing nothing at all, and knowing the sound is only mine to carry through endless, sleepless nights ahead. I worked nights cleaning the 3rd floor of an office building in downtown Portland, a place where silence itself feels alive. That December rain had been hammering the city, drenching everything in a restless rhythm of silence. The kind that slicks sidewalks until they shine like black glass under the street lamps, reflecting a city that feels half asleep and watching. The kind that makes every bus smell like wet wool, a scent of exhaustion clinging to every passing breath. My shift runs from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., 6 long hours that blur into one endless loop. By then the building is dead, quiet elevators parked, motion lights, buzzing vents, humming each sound reminding me how truly alone I am. The lemon disinfectant from my cart mixes with burnt coffee from the break rooms and clings to my hoodie. That familiar heavy nighttime scent always lingers stubbornly on the fabric. That smell follows me home on the bus. People sit one seat over when they catch it, their tired eyes avoiding mine in quiet unease. I usually park the cart in the closet, start at the marketing office, vacuum straight rows, empty bins with receipts and granola bar wrappers, wipe glass and keyboards, disinfect touch points with steady practiced motions that feel like prayer. Bathrooms last same order every night, the endless rhythm of silence and fluorescent hum. The third floor is two long halls forming a rectangle. At the ends of each hall are dimly lit, staff-only stairwell doors, the kind that should be bolted after hours. That Tuesday, I was tired, but still steady quietly fighting exhaustion. Around 11, I was emptying bins by the north stair. The door creaked not open, just enough for the rusted metal hinge to groan softly. Then the handle jiggled. I froze. The sound was wrong. It wasn't air pressure or pipe settling. That was a hand, a living patient and deliberate presence. I set the bin down and pressed myself against the wall, out of sight of the wired glass. The handle jerked again slower now, like whoever was there was testing the limits of the locked door. Then footsteps on the concrete stairwell going up. I pulled my phone and called security. My hands trembled slightly, but stayed steady enough. Third floor north, stair door. Someone's testing the handle right now. They told me to stay on the line. I heard another guard's boots through the radio. Then Luis, the guard I knew, answering from the south stair. His calm voice echoed like a fragile anchor in fear. My phone picked up his voice a second before my ears did in real space. North stair, third floor. He knocked once. Security, identify yourself. Silence. He pressed the bar from our side. The door opened into the stairwell. Just concrete rain, smell, and dim metallic echoes swirling upward. Empty. He let it close. Then I heard his boots on the stairs. Heading up, I stayed in suite 301 with the lights off, door locked, heart pounding, phone clenched tight in my hand. Through the wall, I heard footsteps moving higher, each step heavier than the one before. Minutes later, the radio crackled loudly through the static silence. Subject on 5, tried a door. By the time we reached the hall, the corridor echoed with our cautious steps, no one visible. Cameras caught him at the landing. Hood up, never showing his face, then gone again into the stairwell. I came back jumpy, finished the second floor faster than ever, then walked a tense, careful perimeter on 3 before starting. That's when I saw the north stair door wasn't sitting flush. Down at the hinge, a folded newspaper was wedged into the jamb, its edges damp and deliberately placed there, keeping the latch from catching. The paper was damp, date fresh. Someone had planned this quiet re-entry carefully. I didn't touch it. I called Luis. He came with another guard crouched, pulled it out with 2 fingers, working slowly, tension heavy in the air, slid it into a plastic bag. It had bullet points and clip art. My name wasn't in it, of course. My job is to make it look like absolutely nothing dangerous ever happened here. But what stuck wasn't an image. I never saw his face. What stuck was the quiet repeating sound, the handle jiggling in quick testing pulls, and that folded newspaper in the frame, telling me he wasn't improvising. He was calmly, patiently planning to come back. Fear at night isn't screaming. It's small choices you make quietly, deliberately, and instinctively before something happens. It's locking a door behind you, even if you're only inside for 5 cautious, measured minutes of silence. It's carrying a flashlight you may never need just for the feel of it, steady and reassuring in your pocket. And if I ever hear that handle jiggling again, I'll do what I did, calm, precise, and without hesitation. Call, step into 301, and shut the door. That's the kind of quiet, deliberate, self-protective bravery I can afford past midnight on a rainy Portland night. If what chilled you wasn't the intruder, it was how fragile and suddenly deceptive the night shift looked until it wasn't. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you'd like to share your own story to be featured in an upcoming video, please email me at nighthorrorstoriesyus unexplainable@gmail.com. Every story has the power to touch someone's heart, and who knows, maybe your story will be the next one told. Send it in today, and let's share unforgettable moments together.